In the summer of 1587, a group of over 100 English settlers arrived at the windswept shores of an island off the coast of North Carolina, eager for a fresh start in a new world. But by the following year, when a supply ship finally returned to Roanoke, it was met with a haunting silence. The village, along with its inhabitants, had completely vanished without a trace, leaving behind only one cryptic clue, a single word carved into a tree: Croatoan. What happened to the settlers of Roanoke? More than 4 centuries later, this question still grips our imaginations, sparking theories of horror, adventure, and survival. If you think you know the story of the Roanoke colony, think again. You might be surprised by the shocking twists and turns that await. What happened at Roanoke has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and mystery enthusiasts alike. How could a group of over 100 men, women, and children simply disappear? Could they have succumbed to harsh environmental conditions, attacks from local tribes, or simply moved on to find better opportunities? The enigma of Roanoke isn't just a historical footnote, it's a tale steeped in intrigue and unanswered questions that continue to captivate, revealing depths we have yet to uncover. As you immerse yourself in this saga, each new detail brings you closer to understanding the chilling reality of what might have transpired. Here's a key insight: Roanoke wasn't just an isolated incident. It marked the beginning of a tumultuous period of English colonization in North America, fraught with challenges and uncertainty. The colony was part of a larger narrative of exploration and expansion, one that was as ambitious as it was reckless. Each adventurer who sailed the Atlantic sought riches, land, and glory, but Roanoke paints a different picture of the costs and consequences of these bold endeavors. How does this shift our perception of the lost colony, as it is often called? Before we dive deeper, let's set the stage with an understanding of the historical context surrounding Roanoke. In the wake of Christopher Columbus's discoveries, European nations rushed to stake their claims in the New World. Queen Elizabeth I faced immense pressure to establish a foothold in North America to compete with Spain and France. In this setting, Sir Walter Raleigh emerged as a key figure. He led the charge to establish a colony, inspiring settlers with visions of prosperity and untold treasures just waiting to be claimed. But what was the reality of life in these early colonies, and could anyone have predicted the fate that awaited them? Imagine the roar of the Atlantic as the settlers aboard the ship the Dragon approached Roanoke Island, exhausted yet hopeful. Life in England had become increasingly challenging, filled with uncertainty due to political strife. For these settlers, the New World represented a refuge, a chance to wipe the slate clean. The harsh terrain and wild surroundings were met with an eagerness that would soon fade into desperation. Before we uncover the threads of their disappearance, consider this surprising fact: the Roanoke settlers were not the first Europeans to attempt colonization in North America. Earlier, the Norse had established settlements in Greenland and Newfoundland, with looks into the Native American cultures that thrived long before they arrived. So why is it that only the story of Roanoke haunts our histories? Perhaps because it becomes a cautionary tale, a reminder of hubris in the exploration age. Is it possible that in our pursuit of expansion, we overlook the true cost of such ventures? As the settlers began building their new lives, they faced immediate challenges: hunger, disease, and tension with indigenous tribes. You might be wondering how their interactions played out. Initially, relations were somewhat amicable. The local tribes, including the Croatoans, assisted them. However, misunderstandings ensued. Some settlers viewed the natives as obstacles rather than allies, and skirmishes soon erupted. How could such a promising start crumble into chaos? The answer lies in the settlers' diminishing resources and trust among the indigenous people. The decision to send John White back to England for supplies was pivotal. White, the colony's governor, left in 1587, promising to return swiftly. But history would dictate otherwise. When White finally returned in 1590, he found the island deserted, save for the eerie carving on the tree, Croatoan. This was not just a word, it was a lifeline, a clue. Who were the Croatoans, and what did their names signify? Moreover, did they play a role in the colony's demise, or could they hold the secrets to its fate? Interestingly, the fate of the Roanoke colonists does not solely rest in their disappearance. The very name Croatoan provides a deeper connection to the situation. Some historians theorize that the settlers might have assimilated into the Croatoan tribe after their desperate attempts to survive. There is documented evidence supporting peaceful coexistence between some settlers and local tribes, revealing that perhaps this tale isn't one of mere loss, but one of adaptation and resilience. What could this mean for our understanding of colonization and survival in harsh new worlds? Yet, the puzzle deepens. White never uncovered the fate of his daughter, Eleanor Dare, and his granddaughter, Virginia, the very embodiment of hope for the new colony. Their absence sparked generations of speculation, with stories of survival and horror woven into the narrative. Did Virginia ever survive? What tales might she tell of their time among the Croatoans? The emotional weight of these questions pulls us further into the mystery, making it feel palpably alive, as if the answers are just out of reach. As we delve deeper, we can reflect on a pivotal event concerning the governor. When he returned to England, White faced an England struggling with its own crises, wars, political turbulence, and resource strains. With the Spanish Armada looming and England's focus divided, his vital trip for supplies turned into a rescue effort, misleading those who remained behind. Did the plight of Roanoke become lost in the shuffle of England's strife? One startling revelation is that, during this era, native tribes were not merely passive witnesses to these colonial endeavors, they were active players. Local tribes had their societies, cultures, and politics long established before the first English ships landed on their shores. The settlers' misunderstanding and lack of respect led to escalating tensions, ultimately contributing to the colonists' struggle for survival. What could have happened had they formed alliances grounded in trust rather than fear and competition? The story of Roanoke becomes a cautionary tale warning against arrogance and miscommunication. Now, let's challenge conventional wisdom. For many, the tale of Roanoke ends in haunting ambiguity. But what if I told you there are compelling theories that suggest the settlers did not perish or become captives, but rather integrated into indigenous tribes? You might be wondering what evidence supports this. Various accounts and oral histories from indigenous people hint at the presence of white settlers in their communities after 1587. Recent archaeological discoveries have also surfaced indicating that European artifacts found in tribal sites could link back to the Roanoke settlers. Could it be that the settlers forged new lives, embracing the very culture that once posed a threat? What comes next will leave you speechless, providing thrilling paths to understanding a story steeped in myth and reality. As we piece together the evidence, it becomes clear that understanding Roanoke isn't just about piecing together historical fragments, it's about understanding human nature, our desire to explore, to conquer, and to survive against the odds. Every decision made by the settlers crafts a narrative that leads to their vanishment, revealing the fragility of community and connection in a new and hostile environment. The more we learn about their story, the more that initial question morphs. We must reconsider not just what happened to Roanoke, but how our perceptions shape the way we understand their experience. Soon, we will explore the shocking connections between the vanishing village and contemporary histories, showing just how deeply the specter of Roanoke permeates our perceptions of early America. But as we navigate through this sea of mysteries, I invite you to reflect on your theories. Do you believe the settlers fell victim to tragedy, or did they find a way to thrive, hidden among those they initially feared? As we approach the second half of our journey, be prepared to confront some mind-blowing revelations that redefine everything we think we know about the lost colony. We will delve into the latest archaeological findings, scrutinize contemporary accounts, and explore how the legacy of Roanoke still resonates in American culture today. And perhaps, we'll arrive at a conclusion that will not only unveil the fate of the settlers but will also provoke us to think about the repercussions of colonization that echo through history. Stay with us as we untangle this perplexing narrative, armed with insights that may alter your perspective on the story of Roanoke. The journey is just beginning, and soon, we'll unlock more secrets that the vanished village holds. As we embark on this second half of our journey, it's essential to transition our focus from historical speculation to contemporary analysis. Archaeologists and historians have made significant strides in unearthing the mysteries surrounding Roanoke, leading us to new insights that challenge long-standing assumptions. What does recent research tell us about the fate of the Roanoke settlers, and how does it reshape the narrative we thought we knew? One of the most promising avenues of exploration has been the excavation of artifacts on Hatteras Island, near the Croatoan territory. Recent digs have uncovered European-made items, such as pottery, tools, and weapons, dating back to the late 16th century. These findings suggest that, rather than meeting a grim fate, some settlers may have found refuge among the indigenous tribes, integrating into societies that welcome them in their time of need. This idea gains traction when considering contemporary accounts of white settlers showing up in native villages years after the disappearance. Accounts from tribes like the Croatoans, dating back generations, reflect interactions that contradict the idea of total conflict. They narrate tales of white people living among them, often portraying these settlers as allies or traitors. The oral traditions of the tribes involved could provide a thread of truth woven into the fabric of this complex history. Could these traditions hold vital clues about survival, adaptation, and intermingling? Moreover, the narrative broadens when we look into the artifacts contained within these archaeological sites. Each newfound object tells a story, offering glimpses into the day-to-day lives of the settlers, should they have forged a new existence among the Croatoans. Were they hunters or gatherers, performers of agricultural practices, or innovators of new tools? The artifacts not only paint a vivid picture but also evoke a sense of humanity and resilience in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. At the heart of our investigation is the Croatoan name itself, which continues to echo through history. Some historians posit that the settlers left to live with the Croatoans, with the carved word serving as a signal that they successfully joined this tribe and moved to a friendlier territory. In many ways, the carving can be seen as an act of hope, symbolizing the possibility of solidarity between cultures rather than an ominous farewell. But what did that integration look like? How did it influence their identities? To explore these questions further, let's shift our attention to the interwoven lives between the settlers and the indigenous tribes. Early interactions between the two groups reveal a dynamic that was anything but static. Initially, the Roanoke settlers were viewed as novelties, invaders, and potential allies. Documented exchanges of goods and knowledge reflect an acknowledgement of mutual benefit, with settlers depending on native resources while offering new technology in return. Over time, relationships became fraught, as distrust grew from misunderstandings and manifestations of cultural difference. Despite adversities, some settlers may have learned essential survival techniques from the indigenous people, not only adapting to life cycle changes but also finding ways to cultivate familiar foods in an unfamiliar context. The harsh reality of Roanoke could lead to a painful reckoning, pushing settlers to reassess any preconceived notions about the savage way of life they had anticipated and instead embrace the new potential for coexistence. As we look at the intersecting narratives that stem from Roanoke, we must also acknowledge the cultural backlash it fostered back in England. The failure, or apparent failure, of the Roanoke colony sparked a wave of both skepticism and innovation regarding colonization practices. For every ship lost to the Atlantic, new ones were constructed, each more equipped to navigate the challenges of colonization. Lessons were learned, albeit in the hardest of ways. The disappearance of the Roanoke settlers set a precedent, steering the ambitions of later expeditions. Fast forward to the early 1600s, and we witness the establishment of Jamestown, another prominent English settlement. This incarnation could not escape the shadows of Roanoke. Its initial surges of optimism were curbed by an intense focus on survival, reflecting a cautious approach grounded in history, a deep acknowledgement of past failures. Jamestown's settlers arrived with prepared tools, knowledge of native relations, and careful plans, all influenced by the failures of Roanoke. Yet, we also grapple with the legacy that Roanoke formed in the American psyche, a haunting reminder of aspirations untamed. This legacy persists beyond the historical lens, echoing in cultural narratives, literature, and even folklore. The Lost Colony continues to captivate artists, writers, and filmmakers alike. The mystery of Roanoke feeds our fascination with the unknown. It tantalizes the imagination, serving as fertile ground for stories that explore the intersection of cultures, survival, and human adaptability. Furthermore, the way we respond to the Roanoke incident has implications for how we view colonization as a whole. The phrase "the lost colony" signifies more than just a physical disappearance. It speaks to the narratives of loss, lost identities, lost relationships, and echoes of voices that can no longer be discerned. It prompts us to reflect on the narratives we choose to celebrate and those we allow to fade into obscurity. As we close in on the emotional core of this narrative, we are reminded of the chilling separations that define the settlers' course. The image of John White returning to a deserted island, holding tight to the hope of reconnecting with his family, is haunting. The possibility that his daughter and granddaughter could have survived, mingling their bloodlines with the Croatoans, brings a poignant sigh, a blend of despair and wonder about the confluence of cultures. In contemplating the long-reaching implications, it's vital to recognize the juxtaposition of Roanoke within our exploration of America's evolving identity. It serves as a microcosm of colonial ambition and its discontents, mirroring the more extensive themes of arrival, both challenging and enriching. Our understanding of what occurred pushes us to reconsider the narratives that have taken root, how history shapes national identity and the individuals caught at its intersection. It begs the question, in our contemporary context of decolonization and a reconciliation of histories, how do we frame stories of the past? How do we honor the tales of disappearance while simultaneously acknowledging the vitality of indigenous resistance and survival? The legacy of Roanoke inspires new explorations of who we are as a nation, an ongoing dialogue about the threads of history woven into our collective fabric. As we reflect upon the complexity of the lost colony, we can pivot toward more profound considerations on native resilience in the face of change. The actions of indigenous tribes following the departure of the settlers reflect not only survival but also adaptiveness, allowing us to see beyond the historical narrative of victimhood. The Roanoke saga leads us not simply to ponder a lost colony, but rather to contemplate the implications of our own colonial histories, of those seeking sanctuary as well as those whose lands were altered forever. In conclusion, understanding the narrative of Roanoke is not merely an exercise in piecing together a historical mystery. It is about exploring the complexities of human experience, the intersecting desires for belonging, security, and identity. The vanishing of the Roanoke settlers, their possible integration into indigenous culture, and the lessons learned following their fate invite us to consider the roots of our society and its inherent contradictions. Roanoke remains enveloped in mystery, but in celebrating its complexities, we uncover deeper truths about humanity, survival, and resilience. The story does not end neatly, it transcends borders of time, continuously woven into the ongoing narrative of America. So, as we close this chapter on Roanoke, we encourage you to carry forward the stories, questions, and complexities that linger, because in our exploration of the past, we inevitably illuminate the pathways to the future. The specter of the lost colony serves as a reminder of both our triumphs and trials as we navigate the complicated waters of our history, urging us to listen to the quiet whispers from the shores of Roanoke, waiting to be heard.